They called her a fraud, shouted across the lobby, and threatened to have her dragged out. Customers stared, some whispering, others laughing, as the branch manager of Summit Trust Bank tore up her documents and ordered security to remove her. Even the regional director joined in, certain they were humiliating a powerless woman. But Danielle Warren didn't raise her voice. She didn't beg. With one call, she unleashed the truth that would crush their arrogance in real time. Because this nobody was the CEO of Warren Financial Group, the parent company that owned the entire bank. The lobby of Summit Trust Bank buzzed with ordinary noise, phones ringing, keyboards clattering, a line of customers shifting impatiently. But that hum snapped the moment Danielle Warren approached the counter. She wasn't met with service. She was met with suspicion. The branch manager, Thomas Grayson, stepped forward, his tone sharp before she spoke. "You don't belong back here. This area is for clients only." Danielle lifted her chin, unbothered. "I am a client, and I have business with this bank today." Grayson's eyes narrowed, and his voice rose loud enough for the lobby to hear. "Clients don't walk in here making demands without proof. Show me identification." She slid her ID and bank documents across the counter calmly. But Grayson didn't look at them. Instead, he snatched the papers, waved them theatrically, and scoffed. "This? You expect me to believe this?" Customers turned. A few snickered. A mother pulled her child closer. The assistant manager, Linda Park, appeared at his side, peering over his shoulder like a prosecutor. "Obviously fake," she said, rolling her eyes. "She probably printed these at home." Danielle stayed silent. Her composure only seemed to inflame them further. "You can't just walk into Summit Trust Bank and pretend you're important," Grayson barked. "Security!" The guard, Officer Miller, looked uneasy but stepped closer. The crowd's whispers sharpened, feeding off each other. "Who does she think she is? Probably a scammer. Why doesn't she just leave?" Danielle spoke evenly, her voice steady enough to slice through the noise. "You're making a mistake." Grayson leaned across the counter, smirking. "The only mistake is you thinking we won't expose you." With a swift motion, he tore her documents in half, holding the pieces aloft like a trophy. The crowd gasped. Phones were raised. The humiliation was no longer private. It was a show. Linda's lips curled in triumph. "You're finished. Whatever game you thought you were playing, it's over." Danielle's eyes didn't flicker. She simply tapped her phone once, activating a recording app, her screen glowing faintly. Grayson noticed. "Trying to record us? Cute." He grabbed for her laptop on the counter, yanking it open. "Let's see what else you forged." "Don't touch that," Danielle said firmly. But he had already slammed it shut and, with a violent crack, snapped it against the counter edge. Gasps ripped through the lobby. "This is what you get for trying to cheat this bank," he declared, the broken laptop dangling from his hands like evidence. Officer Miller shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, maybe we should wait before escalating." "Escalating," Grayson barked. "She's trespassing. Call the police." The words detonated. Phones shot higher. Someone muttered, "She's going to jail." Another laughed. What did she expect walking in here like that? Danielle's silence was unbroken. She placed her phone flat on the counter, camera pointed forward. "Every second was evidence," Linda sneered. "What, going to post this online? Nobody will believe you. You're nothing." From the corner, a frail voice rose, steady, defiant. Ruth Caldwell, an older customer with silver hair, had been watching closely. She stood leaning on her cane. "I've been banking here for 30 years and I know injustice when I see it. This woman has done nothing wrong." Her voice trembled, but the courage was undeniable. For a moment, the crowd hesitated. Grayson pounced. "Sit down, Mrs. Caldwell, before you embarrass yourself. This is a private matter." Ruth didn't sit. Her eyes stayed on Danielle. "Hold your ground, child. Truth doesn't need their permission." Danielle nodded once, almost imperceptibly. The doors to the office wing swung open, and the regional director, Charles Denton, strode in. His suit was immaculate, his expression carved from stone. "What's happening here?" His voice carried command, silencing the room. Grayson straightened immediately. "Sir, we caught this woman attempting fraud." Fake documents, forged identity, trespassing in restricted areas. We've already called the police. Denton's gaze swept Danielle coldly. Is that so? She even tried to record us, Linda added, her voice dripping with disdain. Classic scammer tactic. The director approached Danielle directly, looming over her. Do you have any idea the consequences of impersonating a client? That's a federal offense. Murmurs surged again. Federal offense. She's going to prison. Danielle lifted her phone from the counter, her voice calm but laced with steel. Everything you've done tonight is being documented, not just by me, but by people who outrank you. The director's jaw tightened. Empty threats don't scare me. Officer, detain her until the police arrive. Officer Miller hesitated, sweat beading at his temple. Sir, maybe we should double-check before… Denton's eyes flashed. Do your job. The guards stepped forward reluctantly. The crowd leaned in, hungry for a climax. Phones filmed. Whispers hissed. Fraud. Scammer. She thought she was clever. Danielle's voice cut through like a blade. You're humiliating yourselves in front of the wrong person. Grayson laughed harshly. Wrong person? No, lady. You picked the wrong bank. And with that, the trap was sprung. The humiliation complete. The cameras captured every cruel smirk, every false accusation. But Danielle didn't crumble. She didn't beg. She simply stood straighter, her silence heavier than their shouts. Behind her, Ruth Caldwell's voice rang out once more. Mark my words, you'll regret this. The guard's hand hovered near Danielle's arm. The police had been called. The crowd was convinced. The managers felt untouchable. Yet none of them realized they were seconds away from the collapse of their own careers. Danielle turned her phone slightly, its screen flashing with a new notification. Headquarters was watching now. The reckoning hadn't even begun. The lobby of Summit Trust Bank simmered with unease. Customers clutched their phones, some recording, others whispering, as the air thickened with judgment. Danielle Warren stood unmoving in the center, her phone recording everything. She was no longer just a customer. She had become a spectacle. Branch manager Thomas Grayson stood behind the counter, chest puffed, emboldened by the crowd. You heard the director, he barked. Detain her until the police arrive. This bank doesn't tolerate fraud. The guard, Officer Miller, hesitated. His hand hovered near Danielle's arm, but his eyes betrayed discomfort. Sir, maybe we should verify once more. If this goes wrong, Assistant Manager Linda Park snapped. Wrong? Look at her. Everything about her screams deception. Do you think someone like her has business here? That sentence landed like a hammer. Some customers nodded. Others looked away, ashamed but silent. Danielle's voice cut across the tension, calm and deliberate. Your arrogance is being documented. Every word, every action. You believe you're humiliating me, but what you're really doing is writing the end of your own careers. The director, Charles Denton, stepped forward, his authority ringing through every syllable. Enough. Officer, remove her now. But Danielle raised her phone, and the screen glowed bright. Notifications flickered rapidly across it. Grayson's smirk faltered. What is that? He demanded. Danielle's gaze was steady. A live link. This entire scene is being streamed directly to Warren Financial Group headquarters. Executives are watching everything you're doing. The room went still. Whispers ignited. Headquarters? What did she say? Linda laughed bitterly. Headquarters? Do you expect us to believe you have connections at the top? Pathetic bluff, Grayson sneered, snatching at the phone. Danielle's grip held firm. Touch this device and your access to this bank's system will vanish before your next breath. Gasps erupted. The older woman, Ruth Caldwell, spoke from her chair. Listen to her. You're digging your own graves. But Denton barked. Stop wasting time. Officer! Before he could finish, Grayson's computer beeped. A red warning flashed across his screen. Unauthorized access attempt detected. User lockout in progress. What is this? He muttered, jabbing the keys. Nothing responded. Linda rushed behind the counter. It's a glitch. Just reboot. But when she typed her credentials, the system spat them out. Access revoked. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Danielle's voice rang clear, cutting through the rising chaos. I told you headquarters was watching. And now they've decided. Denton's face turned crimson. You're bluffing. He stormed toward the counter and tried his own login. The screen blinked. Access revoked. Panic flickered across his face for the first time. Grayson slammed his fist down. This isn't possible! Who do you think you are? Danielle tilted her head slightly. You'll know soon enough. Customers whispered urgently now, the tide shifting. What if she's telling the truth? Did you see that system lockout? No ordinary person could do that. Linda's confidence cracked. She must have hacked it. Call it! But Grayson was already shouting at Officer Miller. Restrain her before this gets out of hand. The guard stepped closer, but his voice shook. Sir, if she really is connected to headquarters, laying a hand on her could be the end of us. The director's voice broke into a roar. This is my bank! I will not be made a fool of in my own lobby. Danielle's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, then spoke with measured precision. Correction, Mr. Denton. It's not your bank. It's mine. Silence. Utter silence. Ruth Caldwell gasped. Yours? Denton froze. What? What are you saying? Danielle lifted the phone higher. I am Danielle Warren, CEO of Warren Financial Group, the parent company that owns Summit Trust Bank. And as of this moment, every person in this room is witnessing the consequences of your arrogance. The crowd erupted in noise, shock, disbelief, gasps of awe. Phones tilted higher, capturing every second. Grayson staggered back, his face drained of color. No, that's impossible. Linda's voice broke. You're lying. You have to be lying. Denton's phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket with trembling hands. His face turned white as he read the message. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. Please vacate the premises. The director's knees buckled. The letter bore the official seal of Warren Financial Group. The notification had come directly from headquarters. The crowd erupted again, this time in murmurs of disbelief. She really is the CEO. Oh my God, they're finished. Danielle's eyes swept the room, calm and unwavering. I gave you every chance to treat me with respect. Instead, you chose humiliation. You tore up my documents, destroyed my property, and mocked me before strangers. And now your authority is gone. Grayson's voice cracked. You can't do this! But his computer beeped again. His profile photo vanished from the system, replaced by a cold notice. Employee status, terminated. Phones caught his expression as he stumbled back, sweat streaming, his arrogance shattered. Linda tried to protest. I was just following orders. Her terminal blinked. Employee status, terminated. She covered her mouth, her face pale, her body trembling. The lobby filled with murmurs of shock and awe. Customers who had once laughed now whispered apologies under their breath. Ruth Caldwell's eyes glistened with pride. Danielle's phone buzzed again. She read the message, then turned to Denton. Headquarters wants you escorted out immediately. Officer Miller, please handle it. The guard hesitated only a moment, then stepped forward. For the first time, his authority didn't come from the bank's managers. It came from her. Director Denton, he said softly, please come with me. Denton tried to argue, but his voice broke. He looked around the room for support. None came. The same customers who had cheered his orders now stared at him with contempt. The walk to the door was slow, humiliating, final. Danielle stood taller than ever, the truth undeniable, her silence heavier than their screams. The bank had turned on its head in less than an hour. What began as public humiliation ended in public exposure. The crowd waited, breathless, for her next move. Danielle's eyes swept across them, her voice measured but sharp. This is not just about me. This is about every person judged by prejudice instead of merit. About every voice silenced because someone in power decided they weren't worthy. Today, you saw what happens when the truth is no longer ignored. The customers clapped, not loud at first, but building. Even those who had whispered against her earlier now joined, their faces red with shame. Danielle lowered her phone. The stream still running. Headquarters had seen it all. So had the world. And the story was far from over. The sound of clapping faded into a heavy silence as the doors shut behind Charles Denton. The once feared regional director, dragged out under orders he could not defy, had left the lobby stunned. For a moment, the bank felt hollow, as if authority itself had been ripped out of the walls. Danielle Warren remained at the center, her phone still in her hand, its recording light glowing faintly. Every camera in the room pointed toward her, but she didn't shrink from it. She welcomed it. Grayson stumbled forward, desperation cracking his voice. "Ms. Warren, no, Danielle, please. I didn't know. If I'd known you were the CEO, I never would have." She cut him off with a glance so sharp it silenced him. "That's the problem, Mr. Grayson. Respect shouldn't depend on knowing someone's title. Dignity isn't reserved for the powerful. It belongs to every human being who walks through those doors." The words landed like a verdict. Linda Park, still trembling, sank into a chair, her eyes wide with shame. Danielle turned, addressing the entire lobby. "This morning, you judged me before I said a word. You assumed fraud because you didn't recognize me. You assumed weakness because I stood silent. You assumed worthlessness because you believed your status made you untouchable. That arrogance blinded you." The room was still. Even the clicking of keyboards in the offices behind had ceased. She stepped toward the shattered remains of her laptop on the counter. Pieces of metal and plastic lay scattered like the remnants of a war. "You destroyed my property to prove a lie, but in doing so, you proved the truth. Power in the wrong hands becomes violence." Gasps rippled. Several customers lowered their phones, unable to film the weight of her words without trembling. Danielle lifted the device slightly, ensuring the live stream captured every face around her. "To those watching at Warren Financial Group headquarters, you've seen your managers abuse authority, your staff humiliate clients, and your regional director attempt to bury the truth. Tonight, let this be the turning point." The notification tone chimed again. A message appeared. "Directive approved. Restructure authorized." Danielle read it aloud, her voice clear. "Effective immediately, Summit Trust Bank will undergo a full restructuring. Every position connected to this abuse of power will be reviewed, and those who participated in tonight's humiliation will never again hold authority under this institution." Grayson's knees gave way. He collapsed against the counter, his arrogance shattered, replaced by the crushing reality of termination. Linda covered her face, tears streaking through her makeup. A voice from the crowd shouted, "Good! About time someone called this out." Others joined, clapping, not just for Danielle, but for the principle she had declared. Ruth Caldwell rose again, leaning heavily on her cane, tears shining in her eyes. "Child, you've done what most of us only dream of. You didn't just fight back, you rewrote the rules." Danielle's gaze softened at Ruth, but her tone stayed sharp for the crowd. "Remember this moment, not because of who I am, but because of what it revealed. Prejudice thrives when silence gives it shelter. I chose silence at first to show you exactly who you are when no one holds you accountable. And you showed me." She let the silence breathe. People shifted in their seats, their shame a mirror they could no longer look away from. Then she continued, her voice rising like thunder. "But I am not here for revenge. I am here for restoration. Warren Financial Group will establish the Integrity Initiative, a division dedicated to ensuring no customer faces what I endured tonight. Every branch will be audited, every complaint investigated, every voice heard, because respect must never be optional." Applause broke out, stronger this time, echoing against the marble walls of the bank. Customers stood, some wiping their eyes, others shaking their heads at their own silence earlier. Officer Miller stepped forward, removing his cap. "Ms. Warren, I didn't know who you were, but I knew something wasn't right. I should have spoken sooner." Danielle nodded. "Acknowledging failure is the first step to change. Remember that next time." His shoulders straightened, gratitude flickering in his eyes. Grayson, still on his knees, whispered desperately, "Please, just one more chance." Danielle's eyes were cold. "You had your chance, and you chose arrogance over humanity. That was your last mistake." Her phone buzzed again. A new message lit up the screen. Public statement scheduled, media notified. She smiled faintly. The world will hear about this before sunrise. Not from whispers, not from rumors, but from the truth itself. With that, she turned to Ruth Caldwell and offered her arm. Mrs. Caldwell, may I escort you out? The older woman's face broke into a trembling smile. It would be my honor, Miss Warren. They walked together toward the doors, the crowd parting in silence, every eye following them. Phones captured the moment. The young CEO, arm in arm with the elder who had defended her, leaving behind a room forever changed. At the threshold, Danielle stopped and looked back one final time. Her voice was low, but carried across the lobby with undeniable force. Let tonight be remembered, not as the night you humiliated me, but as the night you unmasked yourselves. Power without respect is nothing, and respect, she paused, her gaze cutting through every guilty face, is not negotiable. She pushed open the doors. The night air met her like freedom, cool and unyielding. Cameras from outside flashed. News crews had already gathered, tipped off by the live stream. Reporters shouted questions, but Danielle raised a single hand, commanding silence even there. Tonight you saw the truth. Tomorrow you'll see the change. And with that, she disappeared into the night, leaving the bank, the staff, and the world to reckon with the lesson she had carved into history. Power without respect is nothing. If this story struck you, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. Don't just watch history, be the first to witness it. Turn on your notifications now, so you never miss the next powerful truth we uncover.